pulled in as a freshman. Like, wow, these people really care about me. Doesn't matter your skin tone, anything like that. It was really great. So I was attracted to the program, and I said, hey, I want to do that. I want to be involved in these freshman lives. And I thought that because the diversity here is present, but it's very small. That was another reason why I said I need to get involved.
I didn't really know how to apply for other positions. I just thought I didn't have like a chance in some way. I didn't know why. I kind of just thought I really didn't have a chance to some things. Especially when you're like a freshman and then you're going to transitioning into your sophomore year. You're kind of in a vulnerable state because you're younger. And then you kind of just try to find like your niche of like where you feel comfortable, and I didn't feel comfortable anywhere else but within my ethnic org.
I don't think it really had an effect on my application experience. I really haven't started thinking much about race until the past really 2 years. I haven't thought seriously about it until 2 years. I mean, there's been so much happening on campus that I think you can't help but think about it, and it's allowed me to see better my world around me. And in regards to positions, I think it has had an impact on like my feelings when I check that box or when I write that in. But I think overall, who I am has gotten me the positions that I want, not just because of the color of my skin.
I didn't think about it until I think after the fact, in terms of like when you look at kind of like the staffs when they're finally put together, you kind of look to your left and your right, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm the only one that's different. But it's been cool because I've even as a staff, you become friends, and I've really enjoyed providing those friends a different perspective, and I think and those friends are my closest friends, and I'm so glad that I've been able to give them a different perspective. And so I don't think it has, as far as like I've never been discouraged or felt like, oh, I'm not good enough.
I don't think so. No. Yeah.
I can only think of one time where it might have, and I felt as if I didn't fit the mold. Even in being a minority, I felt as if I was a minority within minorities and didn't fit the certain type of person that the office wanted. And so I'm sure there might have been other reasons as to why I didn't get the position, but from what it looked like, they had wanted one of each kind of person, and then that was just how I perceived it to be.
Not that I'm really conscious of. In terms of application, I feel like I applied like anybody else would have. And then in terms of joining the team, I feel like that was kind of just, like it's purely based on ability.
On my application, but it definitely did play a role in my experience. And I say that now. I don't think I was really aware of it when I was in the Alpha program, but there actually was a friend who was a really good friend, and I know that they didn't mean anything really harsh about it, but they said, oh, I don't really see you as black. And it was kind of like, okay, well, what do you see me as? And then they tried to turn around and say, well, you're not like the other black people. And it kind of put me in a weird position. It's like, okay, that's a good thing, but also that's a bad thing because you're not seeing me for who I am. Yes, I don't want to be identified as the black girl, but I also don't want to be looked at as not having any color, not having any culture either. So.
Ethnic minority leadership probably mostly come into like only within ethnic orgs. I understand there's other students who like branched out and went into other types of leadership, but those are very few and minimal. For ethnic orgs, they kind of, I guess that's the way you identify, and it helps you identify. Because coming on campus, when you're either, you come into the org as a member, and that's where you find like your family or the people you're comfortable with. They help you transition in, and then they protect you and all of this. outside of those ethnic orgs, you feel either like kind of uncomfortable walking around campus, and I feel that the only place that some people feel comfortable are within ethnic orgs. I know for me, like, I am kind of disappointed at the number that leadership does have outside of ethnic orgs that are not minority students. In a way, I'm not trying to say, like, oh, give them the position, but the fact that people need to realize that people do feel uncomfortable when applying for certain positions because they feel like they don't have a chance, or they don't look the part, or because they're different, they won't look.
I think that in regards to the representation of minorities or students of color in leadership on campus, I think it's a choice. I don't think that offices are specifically targeting Caucasian students. For when everything is on campus, if students chose to read posters, if students chose to go out of the way and get uncomfortable and walk into situations where they're not the same, I think that things would be different on campus. And this just from my experience, and I hope I don't offend anyone who may see this, but I think that it is a choice. I think that staying in our own cultural, our own ethnic or race bubbles, I think that I don't agree with that at all. And that's primarily as a student of color from the outside of those, that's all that I see. Is I see students who like stay in BSA, in LASA, in APASO, or in the other specific, or the Pacific Islanders Club. I see that they stick into those, or they hang out primarily those groups of students. Now, that's not to say that they don't hang out with other people. That's not to say that they don't branch out from them, because they do. But that's primarily from what I see. So I think it's a choice. I don't think that it's a bad representation. I think that as a student of color, I chose to get involved. And I chose to make that decision to get into those offices. And yes,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not as many, but it's cool to see those that step up and represent. And
I think that that issue is a lot bigger than just what's on campus, but I don't know, education in general in places where predominantly people of color live, and getting those people educated in order for them to be in college. So a lot of time the issue is that people of color aren't educated, and people of color aren't going to college, and people of color aren't graduating from college. And so it's an education issue, and I think that's what kind of contributes to that ratio of there being not a lot of minorities here at APU and a lot of minorities in leadership here at APU. And so I would say, yeah, the issue is education in areas where predominantly people of color are living, and getting them to college. So
I think that there still could be an increase so we can represent our student body well and have people relate to each other better. But it's getting there. I think it's improved in the past few years.
But I do think that there is a lack of representation. I think it has to do with people thinking that they don't fit a particular mold. I'm sure there are other factors, but I think that's a big one. So
The ratio of people of color or minorities on campus versus them in leadership is like slim to none. We are not represented in leadership at all. For my case, 140 alpha leaders, I think there are maybe 5, 6, for sure less than 10. That's not even really a percentage.
It takes a lot of bravery, I think, more on this campus to go out of what you feel comfortable with, because out of what you feel comfortable with is the majority culture of this campus, that you're going to be that one person diverting. So I kind of just hope that people are more brave. And if they're not brave, then at least there are people there to help them be brave.
We're the ones out there talking to our own people about this. That's going to make a change. Or if we're the ones in these offices or in a job or somewhere, we're the ones going to make a change of that. Because being willing to have those conversations with the people that you're saying are hurting you, that's what's going to make change. Not picking passive aggressive signs up, not talking to your own people about it, because if you're talking to yourselves about it, that's not going to do anything about it. I think the best way to actually like eliminate some of this stuff and really take these stereotypes that I feel are hurting us, or quote unquote hurting us, if that's what's going to change.
If you are a leader right now, be empowered to stand up and to take action, but do it in love. Do it in a way where you yourself can learn also from this experience and teach others what it means to be aware of diversity and really honor it.
APU needs you, that sort of representation. And I think if you don't necessarily fit that mold, that's such a breath of fresh air for not only for the leadership, but for APU students in general, to see somebody that's like, yo, this person doesn't necessarily fit everything that, we necessarily think that this is what a leader is supposed to look like, but they are a leader and they have influence and they're a person of color and, represent. So, yeah.